Find out which low-ranked quarterback could set a new career high in passing touchdowns this season. All that and more on today's episode of Locked On Dynasty.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Here are your hosts, Matt Williamson and Ryan McDowell.
Thanks for making Locked On Dynasty your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. Today's episode of Locked On Dynasty is presented by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is a daily fantasy made easy. Pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than their Prize Picks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on your entry. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. That's prizepicks.com, promo code LOCKEDON. Welcome to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan McDowell. I'm joined, as always, by Matt Williamson. Matt, how's it going today?
It's going well, dude. I mean, how about this? It's a little different. We got our blue background here, and we got a new format. We are catching up with the rest of the Locked On Society here. Brian Peacock and I have been doing this for a while. Kate and Marcus have been doing this for a while, and there's our beautiful faces. Please spread the word about YouTube subscribers. That would help us a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. You might be listening to us in your normal way that you do, but you might be catching us on YouTube. This is our first show on YouTube, Matt. As you said, we got a little behind the times. Kate and Marcus were showing us up, and you've done this a ton with Brian Peacock, but we'll catch up with the times here a little bit. We are on YouTube. Go follow Locked On Dynasty on YouTube and catch our podcast there every single day. Matt, today we are talking about quarterbacks. We're going to focus on the quarterback position. We're going to give you some bold predictions, maybe semi-bold in my case. I don't like the hot takes, Matt. I don't know about you.
That's not really my style either, but mine are a little little spicier than I thought they were going to be.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I'm looking forward to hearing those then. But before we get to those, let's talk about this news because it's new here. Jimmy Garoppolo, reworked deal. Looks like he's not going to be traded, not going to be released. He's going to be with San Francisco this year, presumably as the backup. Gets that reworked deal. He'll be a free agent, if I understand the contract correctly, following this season, and still gets while he took a pay cut, still gets a healthy salary, especially for a backup. Is this in any way bad news for Trey Lance?
I don't think so. I think it's a case of the Niners being able to absorb the contract, really liking the player and, his personality, his leadership and camaraderie with the team. And I think they really want to keep him out of Seattle. I think they're playing defense here, that we're going to keep you around for a year. If disaster happens with Trey, you can take over. We know what that looks like, but we don't want you going to Seattle because we like you.
Yeah, and this is a team certainly that has Super Bowl aspirations. You said something disastrous. Yeah, if things go wrong with Trey Lance, whether it's some type of injury or if he ends up being a bust. I know we don't think that right now, but if things go really south, they've got a great plan B right now in Jimmy G. Well, Matt, let's get to the bold predictions. You said yours were spicy, so I can't wait to hear this. Give us your bold prediction for the 2022 NFL season when it comes to the quarterback position.
Willis over Wilson. I have Malik over Russell. And I think that's not even really a knock on Russell. I think he's going to be successful and win games in Denver. But I don't love what we've seen from him lately. He's getting up in age. I think he's going to get more and more conservative with running and become really a pocket passer. And I think Willis, by the last 4 games or so, is going to be called upon and is going to make plays. And we're all going to get excited about him. And he's going to run around like Jalen Hurts, but more so, and be on SportsCenter with regularity, even if he doesn't really know what he's doing. And then in the offseason, I think they'll help him by adding another receiver. And I think Willis's value might really shoot up.
That is definitely spicy for sure. And just, just for our listeners, Matt and I did not share these with each other.
No,
these
right.
are, we're surprising each other with these. And I've got a Russell Wilson take of my own. So
you do.
It's interesting to hear that. I do want to clarify though. You say Willis over Wilson. Are you talking dynasty value by the end of the year? You think Malik Willis actually outscores Russell Wilson? What's the exact prediction?
I think he will be ranked higher in consensus dynasty ranks at this time next year. I'll leave it. I'll go there. I mean, that's still pretty spicy.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. So I'm just going to go with my Russell Wilson take as well, because we both have one. I'm going the complete opposite direction here. And I said mine were not, not too bold. I don't think this is too bold when you think about the player in Russell Wilson, what we've seen over his career. But I think Russell Wilson is going to be a top 3 fantasy quarterback this season.
Wow.
You think about all the great quarterbacks that we have. We talked about them last week and said it was maybe the deepest from a fantasy perspective we've seen the position in some time. So after what we saw last year with the injury, we've seen it now 3 years in a row, basically, of Russell Wilson tailing off in the back half of the season. You go back to 2019, the first half of the season, he's quarterback 2. The second half of the season, quarterback 15. In 2020, first half, quarterback 1. He's averaging 33 fantasy points a game through the first 8 weeks. Back half of the season drops to quarterback 11, 21 fantasy points a game. Still certainly respectable. And then last year had that injury. Honestly, I was impressed with him last year, even though the numbers tailed off. To come back from that injury faster than most expected, and essentially to play through that. And we know the story here: a new offense, new weapons, and a stacked offense there in Denver with Courtland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler. I still like Alberto. I know there's some concerns about him. And then the 2 running backs in Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon. So I think really it feels like to me the big knock against Russ has not been Russ. It hasn't been his play. It's been the way he's been handled and been managed by Pete Carroll and by the coaching staff over the years in Seattle. And, we've been begging for years to let Russ cook, right? And I think we really see it this year. Obviously, a top 3 fantasy season is within his reach. He's been the overall quarterback one time. He's been a top 3 quarterback 2 other times, and a top 6 quarterback 2 other times beyond that. So we're talking about 5 years where he's been a top 6 quarterback or better. I think he does that again and finishes as high as quarterback 3 or maybe even higher.
Wow. That's pretty spicy. Not too bad. I like it.
All right. After this break, we will come back with a couple more bold predictions for the quarterbacks.
So, folks, I need to tell you guys about Prize Picks. I've been studying Prize Picks here for a while, and I honestly can't wait to sink my teeth into this because I'm going to win some bucks on Prize Picks. I very much believe that. It's very, very easy to play. I have a couple current entries as we speak, but I'm going to really dig into it this upcoming week. Now, the preseason's done. Rosters are going to get set. I'm really going to gear myself towards winning some bucks here. And here's what you do, and this is what I like about it, is you're not doing battle against others. It's just you versus the projections. So I sit there and I look at their experts and I say, man, they're off on this one. Well, that's the one I'm going to go attack. And you pick 2 to 5 players that you think will score more or less than their projection. So you look at the number and you say, man, there's no way he's getting to that kind of yards or those numbers in general. And you hit it hard. And you can do it for any sport. Knowing me, I'm, of course, really going to be concentrating on the NFL. But they do have NBA, Major League Baseball, NHL, even golf, college football, everything you can even imagine. I mean, disc golf, you can attack here too. Cricket, Euro basketball. I mean, so some of these smaller sports, if you know a ton about disc golf or boxing or MMA, you could probably outsmart these guys and make some serious bucks. And the entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's unbelievably easy. The withdrawals are super fast and easy. That's big as well. And it's operational in over 30 states right now, as well as Canada. So here's what you do. Download the PrizePick app or go to prizepicks.com and sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive over a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. That's all one word, Locked On, all caps. If you deposit 100, PrizePicks will give you 100. If you deposit 50, PrizePicks will give you 50. Pretty easy. Don't forget to enter the promo code Locked On at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100.
All right, Matt, we are back. We're talking bold predictions from the quarterback position for the 2022 season. I'm going to go first this time. I hinted at this one at the top of the show. A low-ranked quarterback that could throw for a new career high of passing touchdowns. Who do you think I'm going to say here, Matt? Who's your guess?
Low-ranked quarterback, the Carr?
We could definitely see it for Derek Carr. I went a little lower than that, actually. I went with Jared Goff.
Jared Goff, like that. Yeah.
Lions quarterback. Career high, by the way, is 32 passing touchdowns. That was, of course, back in 2018 with the LA Rams. I love the direction this Lions team is going. Yeah. Really feels like they are taking a step forward. I don't know. Maybe I'm buying into the hype that we see every week on HBO and Hard Knocks, and it's fun to watch that. But what really has me excited and kind of interested in Jared Goff is his supporting cast, right? I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown was really just a beast last year as a rookie. TJ Hawkinson, DeAndre Swift, after missing lots of time last season, back fully healthy. They bring in DJ Chark. They bring in Jamison Williams. They'll have to wait a while on Williams, of course, but he'll get on the field at some point this season. I'm excited to see this Lions offense, and that's something we haven't said in a while. So I do think Jared Goff could eclipse that 32 touchdown mark, which would be a new career high for him.
I think it's very possible as well. I mean, 17th game, that doesn't hurt.
Sure.
I love their offensive line. I think it's up there with any in the league. I think they'll let him throw a fair amount. And by all accounts, and I know this is a little sketchy, that he's been pushing the ball down the field in practice and in this year much more than in seasons past. And they have the downfield weapons to do it, as you mentioned. No, I'm with you there. I think he's a good player and an underrated player in the real world as well as in the dynasty world.
Yeah, certainly undervalued in Dynasty.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, what is your second bold prediction for the quarterbacks?
I am going to stick with the rookie quarterbacks and where they land at this time next year. I originally wrote this down on my little scratch paper that Ritter and Howe would be top 20 Dynasty assets. I'm going to make it 24, though. Yeah, I think that's a little rich, but I Brian Peacock and I were talking about this on Monday. Like, this entire rookie class, Corral aside because of his injury, is a lot better so far than people realize. And I absolutely could see a scenario where, especially Ritter, but Ritter and Howe, who's put up big numbers in the preseason, are the starters by year end. And both those teams are pretty appealing and give the guy a shot like Davis Mills got last year by this time next year. And, Pitts and who knows, maybe even Ridley's involved. And I think Dotson's going to be a really good player. So that's where I'm at on those.
I think that's a good one. I don't know if I'm all the way in as far as top 24, but I'm certainly with you that these rookie quarterbacks have looked a lot better than expected in preseason. We're starting to hear suggestions that Sam Howell is going to be a starter for Washington at some point this season. Certainly, that's certainly the case for Ritter in Atlanta, that he could start some games. You already talked about Malik Willis in Tennessee, and I think it's assumed, although I know you've said the opposite at some point, but I think it's assumed that we'll see your guy Kenny Pickett starting games at some point this season. So I can't go all the way with you there on the top 24 assets in top 24 quarterbacks, but they're certainly on the rise. And just for a little reference here, Malik Willis currently is quarterback 23 in DLF Dynasty ADP. Kenny Pickett is 22, Desmond Ridder 27, and Sam Howell 31. So for most of those guys outside of Sam Howell, not a huge ranks to climb there. It's reasonable that Ridder could jump 3 or 4 spots. The other guys already in that top 24 quarterback range. But I mean, if Howell gets on the field and
right.
with, behind Carson Wentz, unfortunately, that's certainly possible that we could see him. It's a possibility.
I think it's a possibility. And I just think where both those teams are at, it might be worth to say, we really want to see what these guys can do. And I've said this a lot about Ridder since he got drafted, is he just needs to convince the Falcons in a Davis Mills-like manner, hey, draft the edge rusher, draft the D tackle out of Georgia. Give me one more year. And I think he's capable of doing that.
I have been taking part in a couple of late rookie drafts and they're super flex rookie drafts. And we've seen these quarterbacks climbing higher and higher. At one point we said no quarterbacks in the first round, not even Kenny Pickett.
Mm-hmm.
And now Ridder is climbing into the first of one of the drafts I've been participating in. Yeah, I was surprised to see that. And Sam Howell, not a first rounder, but he was picked in the second round.
Okay.
And Malik Willis obviously picked in the second round as well. So it does feel like these rookie quarterbacks are trending up. And again, maybe we're buying into that preseason hype, but they've looked pretty good.
They have. And a big thing, and this is so far from scientific, but I said it a million times before Pickett took the field. These rookies, I just want them to look like they belong whenever they get on an NFL field. It's from the start. And they've all passed that test. Plus Ridder and Howe and, of course, Willis, they run a fair amount.
Yeah, very true. We'll see when those rookie quarterbacks get a chance, and if Matt is right about that one, that we see those guys among the top 20 or 24 dynasty quarterbacks this time next year. Matt, that's a good segue into our next segment, because we are going to look at the ADP for next year. We'll talk about the current top 5 quarterbacks and try to project who we think will be the top 5 dynasty quarterbacks this time next season. We'll do that right after this. Thanks for making Locked On Dynasty your first listen every day. Make sure you check out the Ultimate Pro Football Preview starting August 31st, an 8-episode extravaganza to get you ready for the NFL season. The local team experts of the Locked On Podcast Network and Odyssey NFL Insiders all combining into one ultimate NFL preview. Starting August 31st, search for Ultimate Pro Football Preview 2022 on your Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts.
And folks, you'll see my lovely face there when you search for the Ultimate Pro Preview. But this one's a little more serious. And a lot of folks out there think it's okay to drive stoned. Well, it just isn't. I mean, the truth is your reaction time slows down dramatically when you're high. Not only putting yourself in danger, but everyone around you. I mean, stop kidding yourself. It is not safe. If you've been using marijuana in any form, do not get behind the wheel. If you feel different, you drive different. Drive high and get a DUI. So really just be attentive of that, folks. It's not okay.
As I said, we're going to take a look at the current top 5 quarterbacks, and to wrap up this quarterback discussion today, and a theme that has kind of been looking ahead at the season and beyond, we want to try to make our best guess, our best prediction at what 2023 ADP will look like. So we'll fast forward all the way to August 2023 Dynasty ADP for the quarterback spot. Let's first look, Matt, at what we're looking at right now. Late August, almost September of 2022. We've got Josh Allen as the quarterback 1, followed by Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, and Kyler Murray. And of course, several other talented guys follow soon after that. Maybe some of those we will slot into the 2023 ADP. So Matt, let's kind of work on this together. Quarterback 1 this time next year, value-wise, we're talking ADP, Dynasty ADP. Who do you expect that to be?
Now, quarterback's going to change less than the other positions, right. And these guys have great job security, and some of these guys have massive contracts and are probably less likely to get injured. They're more likely to be the foundation of their football team. So this one isn't going to be as spicy at the top for me, but I think Allen will maintain. Maybe his accuracy wanes a little bit, and he had some down moments last year that people forget, but he's just built for fantasy goodness.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. I can definitely see a case where, where maybe it's Justin Herbert. He's been a player that's gaining value. We see him here at quarterback 3 currently. He's a little bit younger than the other guys on this list, although none of them would be considered old by any means. But I think keeping Josh Allen at the top makes sense. Are you good with Justin Herbert at the 2 spot?
I'm going with Mahomes at the 2 spot.
Oh, okay.
See, I love Herbert. Don't get me wrong. I think he may even be a better quarterback than Allen or Mahomes this time next year. I don't know that he's a natural runner, though. He's very, very capable. I just think he's going to do much of his damage from the pocket. And it's hard to be at the top if you're not running a lot. And I don't know if Mahomes will keep his running up either. It's kind of a young man's position for runners. Right. I would love to have Herbert in the real world. I think he might be a little bit better real world than fantasy quarterback.
Do you think, and this guy's not in the top 5 currently, but do you think Joe Burrow kind of fits into that category as well?
Yes, he would not. That's why I don't love him for fantasy. Yeah.
Okay. Quarterback 3, predicting 2023 ADP. So far, we're locking in exactly what we have right now. Josh Allen at the top, Patrick Mahomes at the quarterback 2 spot. Matt, who do you see as that quarterback 3?
I have Jackson as mine and then Herbert 4. Okay. But I will say there's some contract stuff up there. He doesn't have a great stable of receivers. What if he gets hurt again? I don't love his longevity.
Lamar Jackson, you're referring to.
Correct.
Yeah, I initially in my rankings had Lamar Jackson as the quarterback 3 as well. I'm expecting another huge season from him, but it is that contract.
Yeah,
the contract stuff kind of worries me a little bit, and just how that will play out. That was enough to push Josh Herbert into that 3 spot for me, which again is where he is currently. Let's put Lamar Jackson at 4. We're not changing this very much. In fact, not changing it at all. Do you see Kyler Murray holding down that 5 spot as he is right now?
No, he worries me. His situation worries me. I do think he'll have a good year. I just don't know how much I trust the organization. What if there's a coaching change, or Hopkins really drops off, or Murray has another lackluster finish to his season? I'm going to put Lance in there.
I was going to look at some options, and I thought Trey Lance might be at the top.
Okay.
He was in my top 5 as well. I actually had him at 4 in my projection. So we'll put him at 5 here in our shared 2023 ADP projection. And I think I'm on board with this. I do see Trey Lance making a big jump. That's not that's not a novel prediction at this point. It seems like everybody's on board with that, despite that Jimmy G news that we talked about to start the show. So we've got Allen, Mahomes, Herbert, Lamar Jackson, and Trey Lance as our 2023 top 5 dynasty quarterbacks based on ADP. Of course, that pushes Kyler Murray out of the top 5. We mentioned Joe Burrow's name. Dak Prescott will be 30 years old at that point. Again, not old, but older than most of the other players in this range. Jalen Hurts is a quarterback that a lot of people are expecting a big season out of, but I know some people like our own Matt Williamson have some doubts about Hurts' long-term potential. Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, and then that wild card that we just have to keep talking about is Deshaun Watson. Do you see any way Watson with a strong end to his season following that suspension Could he get all the way back into the top 5?
I guess it's possible, but boy, you'd have to light the world on fire after 700 days off. I mean, I don't know that he'll show me enough on the field to say, oh, he's back to just being a top 3 fantasy producer. I wanted to put Justin Fields at 5. I think that you can envision a world where at this time next year, the Bears drafted the best receiver in the draft, signed another one, signed 2 offensive linemen, and he had a pretty good year this year, and he's really, really ascending rapidly.
Yeah, we want to be careful with putting too much stock into the preseason, but Justin Fields sure looked good. Yeah. Sure looked good in the preseason. I could see him at the very least gaining some value and pushing for maybe even a top 5 spot.
Yeah.
Thanks for making Locked On Dynasty your first listen today. Now make Locked On Fantasy Football your second listen. Find the intellectual fantasy expert Vinny Iyer, who brings over 20 years of NFL expertise and a unique angle to give you the moves no one else has. Get ready for your fantasy draft with Locked On Fantasy Football. That will do it for today's show. Please make sure you download and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. Remember to follow the show at Locked On Dynasty. Follow us on YouTube as well. You can follow Matt on Twitter at Williamson NFL, and I'm Ryan MC23. We'll be back next time with more Locked On Dynasty.